What's up everybody, and welcome back to the infamous project. Today we're going to get back into some DIY slash product review. So a few months ago I was cruising through, it was either one of the Facebook groups or maybe it was Instagram, and somebody had posted up that they installed this little JBL BassPro, something like that, subwoofer that fits in your spare tire well. And not too long after that, KASL Customs went and got a similar product that he installed into his Basic Instinct vert, and he said that his worked pretty good, and the other guy said that the JBL worked fairly well. So I wanted to try something out similar for myself, and that's for a few reasons. And please excuse how dirty the strawberry car is right now. Unfortunately, I haven't had it out for a drive in a little bit. It's probably going to be angry when I do take it out, because this is the one that it loves to drive, and when it's not driving, I get a check engine light, I get an idle surge, I get a couple things that I need to look into on this guy. But with that said, if you look through the rear window here, you can see that there's a subwoofer box hiding in there, old school style, and it takes up a whole ton of room. So number one, I want to be able to get a little bit of the room back in the hatch, because I want to be able to take out that sunroof, I want to be able to put it in the case, and I just want to be able to use that hatch for all of the purposes that a hatch is convenient for, not worry about a big old school subwoofer box. The other reason, there's something about that box, came from a good friend of mine, and it's kind of giving off a smell in the car, so I feel like there might have been a mouse nest in it at one point, or it's just, I don't know, it's almost like a strong MDF slash barn smell. Maybe it's a cheap MDF wood in there. I'm not 100% sure, but you can see it takes up pretty much half of the hatch in there. I'll get this thing popped open so we can see it firsthand. All right, here we go. Even have working hatch struts. It's a very nice feature. So you can see here, I've actually got the strap for the sunroof. Everything is very nice and clean and original in here. But look at the size of this box. I wish you guys could smell this box as well. And yeah, I just want to free up this space. And you know what? My windows aren't tinted. This way people won't be able to see a subwoofer box in there. Who knows? Maybe someone wants to steal this old school MTX audio sub. So we got this guy right here, the BassPro hub from JBL. Let me go ahead, open the box up with you guys. And I've had really good luck with JBL products. The Silver Lightning actually had a full JBL system in it back when I first built it. And then at some point when I sold the truck off, all the stereo that I had put in went missing. So somebody must have kept it or blown it up or whatever it might be. But I ended up upgrading everything in there again. And you know, when this opportunity came up, I figured, hey, what the hell? Let's try it out. So here we are. We have the instruction manual in an array of different languages. And here's the actual unit. You know what, almost, man, it's pretty heavy. So I might have to two-hand this guy. But what do we got here? We got a bunch of connections. And then I think, so you got all this gain, your low pass filter, bass boost, you got all these controls. I think this is sort of gonna be like a set it and forget it type situation. And I'm not gonna worry about trying to run this up to the front. And the one other interesting slash cool thing about this guy is that it takes both low level, so RCA input, or you can run high level inputs into this as well. So what does high level mean? Well, KASL Custom explained it perfectly in his video. It allows you to tap into your factory speaker wires that your sound is coming through naturally through your factory head unit or aftermarket or whatever it might be. And it takes that signal and it will reduce it down to a frequency, or I guess a level, that will allow the amplifier to take and then convert into the signal that it's required for it to ultimately amplify and then go through the sub. So if you don't have RCA cables, or you have a stock head unit, we have an aftermarket Sony in this case, then this is a perfect opportunity. Or in this case, I actually have RCAs running back here. So I can pop these guys out like that, and I'll be able to reuse these. So the other benefit that I have is I've already got power and ground run to the back, so it should actually be pretty easy to hook this up. Now, it kind of looks like that's maybe a 12, 14 gauge wire, if that, on here in terms of power. And I've got a 4 gauge wire running all the way to the back. So I'm gonna be over gauged, which there's nothing wrong with that. Should mean that we get some nice clean power all the way to the back of the hatch here. But before I get started, let's do one thing. Let's close the hatch and let's go ahead and play some music. I don't know how well the GoPro is going to pick it up, but maybe we'll play the intro to my channel, so that way I don't have to worry about copyright stuff. And that way I'll play the same thing once we get that unit installed. So I'll set the GoPro up kind of in the back here, close the hatch, because the hatch does need to be closed ultimately to make sure that, you know, the sub's doing its thing. And we'll give it a little test. All right, guys, so I threw a blanket over the windshield so you guys could actually see a little bit more with the GoPro. And I've got a Sony aftermarket head unit in here with the factory speakers. So I've actually never upgraded the speakers in this car. It is a premium sound car, and this head unit is the only thing powering other than it going through the factory amplifier, because it does have a factory amp, and it sounds pretty good with the bass. If you take the sub out and just listen to the factory speakers, it's definitely missing something. So hence why we need the subwoofer. So we'll go ahead and turn this guy on. All right, so that hits pretty hard. Let me get out of here because I'm literally dripping in sweat. Let's talk about this real quick. Well, it's hot in Texas right now, so we've been averaging probably 105, 106 degrees every day, and real feel like 116, 117. So, and me with my cheap ass, I don't have the AC on because the spray foam does a wonderful job in here with the ceiling fans. So, you know, I try and use my Dubai seasoned body to cope with the heat. So anyways, the sound was pretty good. A 12-inch sub sounds much different than a 10-inch sub does, or for an 8-inch sub. You know, the bigger you go with that cone, the kind of more deep, lower frequency sound that you can get. Now this is just kind of like a cheapy MTX audio, nothing special subwoofer, cheapy Planet audio amp, nothing really to, you know, bring to a sound audio or an SPL competition, any of those things. So not trying to win competitions, just trying to have a good sound. And the car sounds really well with that 112-inch sub. So the question is, will this guy be able to compete? So let's go ahead and get this guy installed. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Plug in the RCAs, connect the remote wire, power, ground, and we're good to go. All right, guys, so if we look in here, the sub cone is facing downward. The rubber surround is through here. The center cone is there. You can see how thick it is. And one interesting thing that I didn't even notice is that it actually comes with a tie down right through the center. So if we want to just pull the spare tire out of here, which I probably will, we can get that guy on there and we're good to go. So here's all our inputs.
Let the bass kick. Let the bass kick.
Go. So before I put it down in the spare tire well, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna hook it up and I'm gonna make sure it works before I go through too much time and effort here. So let's just plug these in.
Let the bass kick. 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 Let the bass kick.
Man, so good.
Let the bass.
All right, so power test, everything works. All right guys, sorry about that. The GoPro is dying because it's overheating. So I've taken the jack and this guy out of the center. So this is the hook that goes into the bottom of the wheel well and allows you to tighten your jack down. So what I've noticed is the subwoofer, if you look at this cutout right here, it fits right on the inside of the spare tire here, which is pretty sweet. And because this car is still 4-bolt, I'd actually like to keep and have a spare in here. So the height is a little different, but I'm not overly concerned about that. I did try putting the sound deadening back in, the matting, and I think it's gonna be okay. And to just be able to run all this together, I think is gonna be pretty sweet. So the kit came with this rod and this guy, which I believe, you know, you're supposed to probably put this through one of the backside of a lug nut hole or something. I think they're assuming you got a deeper spare tire well. And then, you know, you would do something like this, and then you would clamp the top of this unit down, you know, up onto the spare wheel. But because this is perfectly centered, I want to try and maximize what we have. I want to use this factory hook, and I want to try and use this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some fancy measuring, because what I can do is I'll probably double or triple nut this up, because amazingly enough, the thread is the exact same on this rod. So I can make something like this, and I should be able to actually create a setup that will allow all of this to work together. So I just got to do some measuring, measure twice, cut once, and hopefully I can get this to the perfect length to where I need it, where I can maintain this factory hook, and it's actually going to pull all of this down, keep the spare tire from jumping around in the back, going over bumps. And as for the jack, not 100% sure that I have a place for the jack, but I could throw it underneath the seat if I really wanted to. But hey, at least I'll have a spare. The spare is quite functional in this case, and I just want to see if I can make all of this work.
Let the bass kick.
All right, so this whole GoPro overheating thing in the Texas heat is really getting a little annoying. With that said, I went ahead and did a little bit of wrap up / cleanup while you guys weren't watching. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Again, it's all the same, hooking up an amp and wiring and all those things, but I'm gonna walk you through what I did. If you guys need to reference anything, be sure to check out KASL Customs video, but we're about ready to get the final install done and test this thing out. So here you can see, just got the subwoofer sitting over here. I went ahead and got the main power hooked up. I got the ground hooked up and just used large butt connectors because I was actually running 4-gauge from the previous amplifier. Our RCAs are hooked up and the remote wire. Now you'll notice that I just kind of left the high level inputs, you know, taped up and tucked off to the side here because we won't need them. And the main controller, I did notice when I was testing, it needs to be plugged in in order for the sub to do its thing. So I have run it to the front so I can do all my dialing in stuff. And I guess ultimately, whether I decide to run it up there or I just kind of tuck it off and wrap up the wiring somewhere, hide it under a seat, who knows what I'll end up doing. But let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. So I did go ahead and pull out the spare tire, and I cleaned up the spare tire well here. And I went ahead and I went to the parts car and I took out an old piece of the hatch carpet so that I could have something that goes in between. And in fact, I want to have two things. I want to have a layer in between the floor and the wheel like this. So now I'm going to put the spare tire in, and then once the spare tire is in, I'm going to leave this guy in here just so that there's something in between the spare tire and the subwoofer, and hopefully that'll prevent any rattles or anything else from happening. So I'm going to go ahead now, put all that stuff in. You'll see me kind of tuck the wires around, and we'll get this final installation done. Now again, if you guys don't want to keep your spare tire, you could just set that guy in there the way that it is and you'd be good to go. Sweating like a pig, but we're all good and tucked away. Now, in all transparency and honesty, this is sitting up maybe an inch, but when you have all the padding and everything else in here, it's really not a big deal. I still managed to tuck the jack down in there. I got the tire iron tucked down in there. So in reality, if I had a flat, I could pull that sub out, no problem. It's all anchored down. I got all the tools I need to be able to get me fixed up roadside if need be, because we are still 4-bolt on this guy. There's nothing too fancy. I wouldn't want to be going too fast in one of those donuts. And it is a good opportunity for you to check and make sure there is air and proper air pressure in your donut while you're down there messing with that spare tire. So with that said, let's go ahead now and do our test. So I'll set the GoPro up. We'll do the same thing as before. Let's see how this thing sounds. All right, guys, here we go. Round 2. Just get this to the right spot. It's going to encourage me to go ahead and get that timing cover done, because I think it's something that's going to be really, really cool. All right, so I had my volume at about 45 when we did the last test, and we have gain, bass boost, low pass filter, and our phase 0 or 180 degrees out, depending on how your other speakers in the car are wired up. So we'll just leave that at 0. I'm gonna leave the gain turned down. Bass boost I'm gonna put right in the middle. Low pass filter I'll put in the middle. Let's see how this thing sounds, and I'll probably play a little bit with the gain as I go through the intro here. All right, guys, I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed so far. I didn't even turn that gain past half. I started it all the way down, and at a quarter, it probably sounded the equivalent to the 12-inch sub that we just took out that's laying down here on the floor. I don't know if putting a little bit more insulation padding around the spare tire would help. I don't know if maybe by having the spare tire in there, I'm robbing a little bit of cubic footage. However, I have to say, for the scenario, for the fact that I have all of my hatchback and that's a hidden unit, and that you could wire that in with high-level inline adapters off your factory speakers or off whatever speakers that you're running and not have to run RCAs, I am really impressed. So to the gentleman that got one of these BassPro hubs and had that installed, and wherever I saw that, kudos to you. I wish I could remember where I saw that, because I totally give you credit for it. But at least I was here to replicate what you've done and get the message out to the world. And to KASL Customs, I got to say, man, you might want to look into this one. The one that you got is cool because it kind of does all the same things, but the fact that you can get this in there with that spare tire is just, it's awesome. So there you guys have it. Hopefully that's a nice little, might be an upgrade for a lot of guys because like me, have the old school subwoofer box and amplifier, and you know, they don't always look very pretty. And in this case, it's completely hidden. It's out of sight, out of mind, and I'm really happy with it. So till next time that we do some more DIY here on the Infamous Project, we'll see you then. If you found this video helpful, hit that thanks button down there. Would really appreciate your support. As always, guys, we're so close to 10K subs. I can feel it. So if there's any way that you guys can share info on the channel and everything else and help us get there, it'd be truly appreciated. Thank you again for all your support. We'll see you next time here on the Infamous Project.